All right, welcome back. On this video, what we're trying to do is we are trying to, we're trying to actually find the mode using Python, right? So I've made ours just a little data set here. I have a list of some colors, and then I'm making just a random choice of those colors 100 times. You will see that red is in here twice. So it chooses from this list with equal probability. So red is what I'm expecting for my mode as I sort of test this function or my code to find the mode as I go. But since I've got this here, let's just go ahead and run this file, and we can actually see, right? We do have a data set here, right? If I wanted to count through this and count how many there were, I could certainly do that by hand, but that's what we're trying to avoid, right? That would take a long time here. We see we have a lot of cars, right? 100 cars. Also, in the real world, as a data scientist, you're going to be dealing with data sets that have, thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions, even billions of data points at times. So, any sort of approach that's like, oh, I'll just count these up, that's out the window. So let's use Python to do our bidding. Now, the way we're going to do this is we're going to use a dictionary counter, sort of an accumulator, right? So let's go ahead and iterate, let's say for each car in my car color data, right? If that car is in the dictionary, right? If that car is already one of my dictionary keys, then I want my dictionary at that key. I want that count to increase by 1, right? If it's not already in the dictionary, then I'm going to need to add it into the dictionary, right? And I can do so just by assigning it, right? Now let's go ahead and print D here, right? So if I save this, let's clear that out, but let's run this file, right? I can see that I have 13 black, 13 white, 11 orange, 19 red, 12 blue, 18 green, and 14 silver. So just barely, but as expected, red was my mode, the one with the highest frequency. But how do we get Python to actually return that, right? What we would need to do is we're going to need to find the max frequency, right? Let's find out what that is, right? And that's going to be simply a max, and we could say a max of d dot values, right? The largest value in my dictionary. I think this will work. We might have to cast it into a list, but I'm not 100% sure. Let's give it a try. It looks like we haven't here. This is randomly generating this differently each time. So you know what I'm going to do is I'm going to say random dot seed, and I'm just going to use this seed, the number 1. This way I'll get the same results every time instead of a new random generation, right? This time results a little closer to what I would expect with red at 31, but if I run this over and over, right, it's going to be 31 each time, right? If we take away this line of code, right, this time it's 32 red, right? This time it is actually green at 17, right? This time it is red at 23, right? We see those are different each time. But by setting this random seed, we can make it so we can reproduce the same experiment over and over, right? And this is an important thing to be able to do in case you might be working on an experiment with someone else on separate computers or things like that, right? But anyways, I've now got my max frequency, right? But I need to figure out what those modes are, right? What are the keys where that frequency happened, right? And to do that, I'm actually going to iterate through my dictionary. I'm going to say for key and value in d.items, let's say if, and let's go ahead and right? Let's assume that we might have more than one mode, right? There's nothing that's going to keep that from happening with this experiment. So let's say if my value, and instead of value, I'm going to say frequency, right? If my frequency here, and let's call this key, let's be really descriptive. If my frequency is equal to the max frequency, then I've found a mode, right? So I can go ahead and say, hey, that key is the item or one of the items that has the max frequency. And, then I should be able to just, right? So I should get a list with just one item in it here. I'm expecting that one item in my list to be red. I got rid of my old print statements, and I can see that works, right? So I found this. That's really nice. There's actually a more clever way to skip this sort of iterating through the dictionary, right? One thing that we can do is we can actually skip all this business. Oops. We could skip all of this business that we did here, right? And we can use this max function, and we can actually use the car color data. We want to find the max car color data, right? But we're not looking for like the max value, right? If I actually just printed this is going to give me the greatest string, right? Which is white. It starts with the W, that's last in the alphabet, that's the greatest string. It's using the default key, which is the alphabet. I'm going to use a different key, right? Now, the key that I'm going to use is I'm going to use a function or a method that's d.get, right? So this is going to apply this function to each item in the list, right? So it's going to say, I want to dictionary.get with the first item in the list, which maybe it's red, right? I want to get that value, put that into a new list, right? Go through my list of 100 cars, do that for each one. So a lot of the values are going to have, a lot of them are going to have the same value, right? All of the reds are going to have the same value. But I want to go ahead and return my max, the item that had the max here, right? So, right, using that key, right, it's going to return from the original list based on what's returned from this function, right? When you pass red into this function, right? And if I ran, we'll look at this as well, right? We can look at what this says, right? My d.get returns a 31, right? If I were to run d.get on my entire list, that's going to be a list. It'll have 31 everywhere there's red, 17 everywhere there's right? However many there are in that list, it's going to find the max of that and return what it put into the function, right? In this case, red. So we can use this method, right? This max with a key to find a mode as well. And then, of course, the last way, the way that you're going to do it most often is if we just import a module, like maybe if we from scipy.stats import mode, right? And then if I just mode of the car color data, but of course I'm going to want to print that, right? I take it just some, right? It tells me actually a lot, right? It tells me, hey, there could be multiple modes. In this case, there's only one. The data type, it's a string that is less than 6 characters. How many of them were in there? There are 25 of them in there, right? and now I sort of have this, and 25 is different than that 30 number. You'll see that I accidentally got rid of the random.seed. Let's put that back in there just to enforce, that we're getting those same values, right? Now we have over here, you can see this count back up to 31. Right? This is how you're going to do it in the real world, right? But knowing how to logically program out these mathematical concepts is really important as a data scientist, because you need to understand what's happening underneath the hood. So that's it for this video. In the next video, we're going to talk about when should I use the mean, when should I use the mode, when should I use the median, which measure of central tendency is best, and why is it best. So look forward to seeing you over in the next video. Make sure to hit like and subscribe, and we'll see you soon.